Welcome back to the second video of our two-part series of creating an iRig in Houdini using Apex. If you remember before in our last video, we created a manual setup in this Apex edit graph node here. This is what it looks like. It's not too complicated, even though it looks sort of complicated. It's really just creating the abstract control. We have our blend node here. That's blending the position between the look follow and the look static and going into the parent, right? We plug that into the rest local down here. And then we just have our actual look calculations set up within these subgraphs here that plug into our actual eye joints. And then we took that subgraph and we saved it out. So if I open up another Apex edit graph, we should have that subgraph. And there it is. So now we're actually able to use it within a component script. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use the rig script component. And this is a really, really handy node because what this allows you to do is if you chain these together and have several of them, that then gets plugged into an auto rig component, right? This will go into the second input of the auto rig component. And all of these, and then basically this would essentially act as like a single component script, right? But you have all these different steps. So you can have, several different, for example, you can have several different component scripts doing all different things, right? On a certain area of the script, of the rig, and then plug that in as basically just using the second input. I'm getting a lot of errors here because this isn't set up correctly. But this is really nice because you basically would just plug in your character stream and then have all this, right? This could be everything in a certain, for instance, this is going to be our iRig. And then you can even take that and then collapse that into a subnet, which you can save out and then bring back in later, right? So you have everything in here. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll throw down a auto rig script component. And the way this works is we want to take our character stream and plug that into the character stream of our rig script component. We'll throw down an Apex edit graph and we'll just initialize this. So if you watched my previous videos on creating these, you have to set up the input and the output and delete the default way that it comes in. Extract the graph and then update the graph. Okay, so the graph name is going to be the rig name. Oopsie, I named the wrong one. This will be rig name. And then this is going to be the character. Okay, hang on. Let's actually make a new, looks like that one got a little screwed up. Okay, so we'll do that and that. Okay, there we go. Rig name. Okay, so character to character, graph to graph, graph name to graph name, and then character out. All right, and we want to make sure that we're using the second input, so we lose that error there. Okay, and now we put down another auto rig component, and then this, we're going to take this, this red output here, which acts as the rig script component, and that plugs into the second input here, and then we use second input. I'm going to grab this right here and just bring it over here so that we can actually see what our rig looks like now. Okay, so basically what this rig script I have set up here is doing is it's just passing the rig right through. We're not actually making any changes yet. The way I'm planning on setting this up is we're going to create the abstract control and the blend setup. So CTRL blend setup. And then after that, we'll actually set up, we'll bring in those simple lookats in another component script, and we'll set up the actual lookat constraint on our eyes. So let's start by setting up the blends and setting up the abstract control as well. So one way that I like to do this is I like to split this up into two views and actually have my left be the graph that I'm working on and the right be the component script so that I can actually see what's happening in my graph while I write out my component script. And then here, I'll throw down an Apex Scene Animate. And if I lock in that Animate node, I can actually see how the rig is being updated. So I'm actually going to grab this configure controls here and just put that there so that I have my controls back. So I can actually see a little bit better how things are being manipulated. So let's start setting everything up. Okay, let's rename this. So the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need the names of the static, the follow, and the parent iLook position. So again, that'll be these positions right here, right? So we're going to need those. So let's put down 2 value strings, or rather 3 value strings. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll call that the static, follow, and the parent. So we'll call that look static, look follow, and the look parent. Okay. And now each of these need a find node. Find node. So plug the graph into each of these. Plug in the value into the path here. And I'm just going to rename these. So find static, find follow, find parent. And move these down and color them. So let's put down our first node. So graph into here, and we're going to add the abstract CTRL. And so we have to give this a name. Let's call this, or rather, let's grab this string here from this value string. Oops, not that. So I'll do string format. I'm going to plug that into the first argument slot, and we're going to grab that input string with our curly brackets, underscore, and we'll just call this abstract CTRL. Name a little bit better. And that's going to go into the name slot here. So let's put down an abstract control so that we can actually look at the callback name, right? The darker name up top. Okay, so that's just abstract control, and the name is already set. Okay, so if I plug this into graph, we see that our abstract control is added. And the first part of the name hasn't been established because we have not set up the inputs for our rig script component. So we actually have the names of the joints right up here. So let's go ahead and put them on, or get them in. So I look static, and this is the follow. So this would be I look follow, and then I look parent. And you'll see in the graph, as soon as I update that, our name updates. And let's actually fix this string format up a little bit. So abstract, I'm just going to do the ABST control. There we go. And we can color this. Let's do red. And color the node red. So now that we have that, let's actually go and plug that into the control that we need. Remember, we set up this transform object. Where is it? This abstract position, abstract control position. And we need to plug that in to the XForm, into there. So XForm to XForm. So that means we're going to need one more node that we're going to have to find. This will be abstract CTRL pose. We'll say find. We'll rename the input. Okay. We'll go to our rig script component, update, and let's grab that node here. So ABST CTRL pose. Okay, so now that is found. So let's find and connect the input. Graph to graph. The node ID. So the destination node is going to be our abstract control, and the source is going to be this control here. And that's going to be, we're going to plug in the XForm to the XForm. And plug the graph over here, and let's see. It should have updated over here, but it didn't. So I have a mistake somewhere. So that's a destination. Right. I did not plug the graph into here. There we go. So now it's plugged in. So if I go back to here, I see that now my abstract control is right where it should be. Color that yellow. So we'll say connect, yes, pose. All right, so now that we have that, let's create, or rather let's promote that X input. Okay, so we need to find the port. So we'll say graph to graph, and then we'll grab this node ID from the abstract control, plug that into here. And the port name that we want is X. Okay, so we're going to promote the input. So port ID to port ID. That's going to go here. Okay, is this X in? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we had to specify that it was the input. So now that is promoted, but we have to give that a unique name because it's just X for now. So let's put down another string format. Okay, we'll bring that over here. We'll take that input and we'll just put X. So we're going to say param name equals that. It's kind of a long name, but at least it's unique and there won't be any name clashes. Okay, let's color this. Stay organized. Now, if you remember, I set up a clamp before with our abstract position. And it's kind of like you can set up a limit for the abstract control by using a dictionary. Like if you watched my previous video on creating abstract controls, you can do that by using a dictionary, but we're just going to reuse the clamp because setting up the actual limits using the dictionary for the abstract control is like there's a ton of nodage to it. You have to have like a lot of nodes in order to do something relatively simple. So I'm just gonna add a clamp and set it up that way because it's just a little bit easier. Okay, so we'll add our node. Let me see. So we're gonna do the clamp. So this is called clamp float. Clamp float. The name. Let's grab. Okay, so we're gonna do another string format. We'll put this over here, and we'll just call this clamp. Say add clamp. So find a connect input, and that's going to go here. Okay, so this is going to be X. And let me make sure that we're actually adding that clamp. Okay, so that's going to be X into value. Okay, I think I actually have to say X out. All right, I haven't set up my my inputs. Okay, so that's the destination, and this is the node, and I think I can get rid of this. There. Okay, so now it's set up. So here's my clamp, and really quick with the clamp, I'm just going to set up a quick dictionary. Build. Okay, params, and we're going to do a float value. And we're going to put this to max and set that to 1. So now the clamp is all set. The maximum is 1, the minimum is 0. Great. Now we have to actually set up that blend node. So let's add another node. Graph to graph, we're going to say add blend node, red. And we want that slurp, right? So I'll just leave it as blend node. So the callback is transform, : slurp, matrix 4. And again, let's grab another string format. So we'll grab this. Actually, let's grab the parent here. You know what? Let's put this down here. Okay, we'll move that down like that. And we're going to grab this parent. And we're going to call this blend. And we'll put that into the name. So now we have our blend node. Okay. And we'll plug this into the graph. Okay. So our blend node is over here. So now if you remember, let's recreate this setup. So we have 2 transform objects. We have the matrix slurp. That gets plugged into another transform object, right? I think this is going to go into the rest local. And then the result from the clamp is going to go into here. Not the abstract control, but the result from the clamp. So that's essentially what that's going to look like. Okay, so let's do a find and connect input. We'll graph. So let's connect. We'll connect the follow first. All right, let's bring all these guys down a bit. Just want to try to make this as readable as possible. So we'll connect the follow. This is the source, and the destination is going to be the blend. And that's going to be Xform into A. Okay, and we'll connect static. All right, that's going to be Xform into B. So this is going to be our destination node. The static is going to be the source. And we'll plug that into graph. And now our, let me see, where's the blend? Let's give it a color. Let's go green. Here it is. So now then we have to take the result of that and plug that into the parent node. Okay, so we'll do one more and then connect to parent, go down like this. And then now this is going to be the source and the parent is going to be the destination node. Plug that back into graph. And now this is going to be result into rest local. All right, and our graph shifts around. Pretty cool. Okay, now let's see how this is looking. Let's go here, do a little bit of troubleshooting, reset. All right, and now let me see. So that should be working. Let me check. Right, it's not working because I didn't set up the clamp to the bias here. So we'll say connect bias. So we need to grab this clamp node. That's going to be our source. The blend node is going to be the destination. And we're going to do X out to the bias. Whoopsie, X and out. And we'll plug that into the graph. We have to make sure that this is going into here. I think it's just X. Let me see what's going on. So, okay, we have our source node, which is the clamp, right? And that's result. Right, there we go. And that goes into bias. Okay, there we go. Now let's give this a shot. All right, our blend is set up and the clamp is working. Fantastic. And it's all procedural. Wow, very cool. So we're pretty much all set with this node, or with this component script here. I'm going to say add blend and abstract CTRL. So let's move on down and create another rig script component. And I'm just going to grab this and duplicate it just so I don't have to create this setup again. So I'm just going to delete all these. Okay, and just go graph to graph, put that into the second input. That's working. Boom, there. Okay, there. So now we have this all set up. Blend's still working. Great. So now we can start setting up the actual eye control, or the eye follow. And we're going to start with the right eye. So within this eye follow component script, we're going to need 3 inputs. So I'm going to put down 3 value strings, just like I did before. This is going to be the eye, we'll call this the eye X form. We'll do the second one as the eye target, right? Where we want the eye to actually look. And the third is going to be the actual eye joint. Okay, so we'll put these in. So we'll call this eye X form, eye target, and then eye joint. Put down a couple of fine nodes. One for each. Value, value, value. Graph and graph. Okay, this will be find X form, find target, find joint. Give those a color. Okay, so if we remember the simple look subgraph that we made before, now we want to add this in there. So we'll do an add node. Okay, so graph to here, graph to there. And if you look at the callback name, it's just simple look. And we'll make this yellow so we can see it. So now, there it is. So we need to give this a name. So let's do string format. We'll do the actual eye joint, right? So whatever the eye joint name is, we'll have it be that. We'll put that into name, curly brackets, underscore, and we'll call this simple look. So if we recreate our setup as reference, we have the transform object. So this will be our X form. This will be the look at, can't spell. And this is going to be the joint. So it's just that, and oops, yeah, like this. And then this goes into the X form. Okay, so that's how that's going to be set up. So it's really just 3 connections that we have to make. So let's go ahead and make them. So find and connect input, be graph to graph, and now the node ID that we want is the X form. Let's look at this. So this is going to be Xform to Xform. So we'll say connect Xform. And I would suggest trying to name everything as good as you can, because if this is going to be something that you reuse on a regular basis, it's good to have everything named correctly, because if you want to go in and make some edits or something isn't working, you want to know where everything is. And, you can even put down comments and, that kind of thing if you want. Okay, so in this case, we're going to connect the look at. So this is the target is, that's going to be the source, destination, graph. And now we're going to need one more, right? And this is going to actually be this is going to connect to the joint. So the joint is going to be the destination, and this is going to be the source. Let's see, so Xform, let me make sure that my naming is correct here. So we have Xform, and this is going to be look at. And then here, we're going to have Xform out to Xform. Yeah, that should be correct. All right, so let's jump back out. And let's see, so I have to make sure that I'm actually pulling in my joints here. We have the RI pose, RI look, and the RI. So let's see, so we have our little yellow joint here, and the connections are correct, and that's going into the Xform of our eye. So let's jump down here, and let's see how this is looking. Okay, so that's being followed, and awesome. So the eye is working. Fantastic. We've set up our right eye. And now again, to avoid making our component script more complicated, we could just take this, put in these two inputs, and take our third input and put that into here. Refresh this. So now we're using this same component script in this rig script component, right? Because we're taking that third input and putting it into here and labeling this as the second input. So now I need to check these so that I can go and rename everything. And all I need to do is just rename the L, plug in the output here, the actual rig script component, to second input. And if I look down at my graph, now I have the LI simple look, the RI simple look, and all of the connections have been made for me. Okay, so let's do that. Fantastic. Very nice. And now we actually have something that we can just collapse and reuse. So why don't we go ahead and do just that? So I'm going to grab these and just hit Shift C, and we create this little subnet. But I want to go in and fix this up a little bit, because I actually want the second input to go into here, right? Because I want this to be like, if we were going to have, so for instance, let's plug this now into the second input. Because let's imagine we had another rig script component. I would like to be able to continue the three chains. And now let's make 3 outputs, okay? In case we need those outputs. Let's get rid of this. And let's make sure that everything is still working, that we didn't mess anything up. Okay, awesome, still working. And one thing I'm gonna do before I turn this into an HDA is I'm actually gonna grab this actual, the guide joints here, and I'm going to just copy it and paste it and put this into my HDA. Because once I throw down this HDA, I'm going to need all of these joints, right? So it'd be nice to just be able to just jump into the HDA, grab the guide joints, and just pipe that into here, and then be able to have all the joints set up automatically, right? So here are my parent joints. I just copied and paste, and now all my joints are set up. That gets piped down here into this subnet. Let's call this iRig. Let's customize it. Let's make it look like an eye. If you take a look here, this is essentially how the rig script component works. Is in here you have everything kind of packed into a subnet. It actually works the same way as a component script, but it's really nice because it just takes these smaller component scripts and just packages them up into just one larger component script, which then just gets piped into the auto rig component. So we'll say create iRig. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and save this, which I've already done. So I have my MR iRig. And if I jump in, it's essentially the same thing, just with a little bit more notes. So just to make sure that this is working, why don't we take these joints and this geo over here, and we'll put down a pack folder. So we'll start from scratch, basically, from where we were in the very beginning of this short video series with just the joints and just the geo. We'll put the joints into here and the geo into, so we'll say base shape. Okay, so now from here, we want to create the guide skeleton. So let's jump in. We'll just copy and paste this, pipe that into there. So now we have our guide skeleton. Pipe this into the third slot, guide scale. Okay, put down an auto rig component, initialize all our transforms. Make sure we're using the guide skeleton. Put down another auto rig component. So now we have our bone deform. Whoops. Okay, just have to type this in. Shape, base, scale, geo. There. All right. So now let's pipe this into the second input. We'll put down another auto rig component. And you see down here, as soon as I take this and just pipe it in, everything is added automatically. Okay. Take the first input and then we'll do use second input. And now we see that we've actually created our iRig. So again, you can just take this, configure controls, just bring it over here so we can actually see what we're doing. And there it is. Okay, so now we have a modular iRig that we can use at any time on any rig. And again, we've only, the main point here is to just create things once, but create them in a way that you can reuse them later. And that's where Apex becomes extremely powerful, because you never really waste any time. As long as you're fiddling around and creating tools, you can always save things out to use them again later. So that's the end of this short series of videos. I hope it was helpful. And if you have any questions, again, I'll do my best to answer them. If you want to grab this rig, it's on my Gumroad. I'll leave a link in the video description. And most of all, thank you for watching.